us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kendall. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. So thank you for joining in person as well as joining online over Zoom. Um, I am grateful to Kendall and Trina for starting up this Sangha. At its very core, this Sangha aims to represent diversity, not just diversity in terms of our ethnicity and race and culture, but also neurodiversity. So I identify myself as having a neurodiverse background, and the practice, the mindfulness practice, Buddhist practices, etc., they've helped me a lot in becoming functional. I feel that I'm more and more functional now than ever before. So when I talk about these teachings, I know the power, I know the strength of these teachings and the tremendous power of transformation that they carry. So I'm absolutely delighted to take the teacher seat here in the Sangha, and I take this seat very responsibly, because I know people are going to listen to me. So I just want to make sure that I say the things that are most appropriate and most helpful to everyone, you know. So again, thank you for having me, and I hope you find a lot of value in my talk. So I am going to talk about Ānāpānasati Sutta, the Buddha's core instructions on mindfulness of breath meditation. I do have a disclaimer though. There are some people who get traumatized when they focus their attention on their breath. So I hope you're not one of them. I hope focusing on your breath does not traumatize you. Also online, if you do, then unfortunately there is no other alternative. This whole sutta is based on mindfulness of breath. So it requires us to focus our attention on our breath, right? So again, I hope that you don't find this practice traumatizing. If you do, then please let me know. I also want to talk about feedback, as even though we call ourselves teachers, we are actually students ourselves. We feel empowered to teach because we feel that we have a lot of value to give. But like all students, we have plenty of scope for improvement. So as part of our ongoing efforts, we are going to start sending out surveys via email. So if you find any constructive feedback to offer to teachers like myself, please feel free to do so. I would love to hear from you. And I'm sure other teachers that come here, that visit here, they'll also be happy to receive feedback. So, we can all improve our teachings better. Any questions on what I've said so far? Okay, thank you. All right, so I am going to share my screen. I am going to share with you the basic outline of these 16 steps. And I will use this outline extensively when I give my talk. Oh, share. Okay, all right. So James and Margaret, Sandra, can you see the PDF document that I'm sharing? It's called Mindfulness of Breath. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right. Now I'm going to use some of my notes for giving this talk. So, all right, let's get started. So mindfulness of breath discourse is in the Majjhima Nikaya basket within the Pali canon. It is Sutta number 118. And it is a discourse that details Buddha's instructions on using awareness of the breath as a focus for meditation, leading on to tranquility and insight and liberation. So it's a very, very powerful kind of a technique. And this is the only sutta in the Pali canon where Buddha gives detailed meditation instructions. And you should consider the 16 steps as a continuous form of practice. So,
Alpesh, do you mind if I just ask what number it is again in the Majjhima?
oh,
Because-
Majjhima Nikaya, 118,
Thank
118.
you. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, these 16 steps should be considered a set, and ideally, you should start from step 1 and go on till step 16. But you can always recycle back, and during my talk, you will understand how the initial steps, they help other steps. In other words, it's a building block. It's a very conscious, focused building block that allows you to go from your body on to feeling tones and mind and to collection of experience called dharmas. So I'm going to read a quote from you. This is what the Buddha said when he talked about Ānāpānasati Sutta. He said, "O bhikkhus, the full awareness of breathing, if developed and practiced continuously, will be rewarding and bring great advantages. It will lead to success in practicing the 4 establishments of mindfulness. If the method of the 4 establishments of mindfulness is developed and practiced continuously, it will lead to success in the practice of the 7 factors of awakening. The 7 factors of awakening, if developed and practiced continuously, will give rise to understanding and liberation of the mind." So within these 16 steps, the 7 factors of awakening are kind of interwoven in a very beautiful way. So as you go through these 16 steps, you are kind of arousing them one by one, and they in turn help you progress through these steps. So again, it's one of the most foundational and transformative meditations in Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist practices. There are many advantages. So like you said in that paragraph, like you heard in the paragraph, right? It's a gateway to mindfulness and concentration. So by focusing on these steps one by one, we develop tranquility, we develop this ease of mind that leads to greater concentration. And this concentration, powered by mindfulness, leads to insights that leads to liberation, right? So it's very, very powerful. It is also linked to the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The 4 foundations of mindfulness is one of the most seminal discourses that Buddha gave, where he highlighted each foundation. So you have foundation of body, foundation of feeling tones and mind and dharmas. These are the basic foundations on which we can practice mindfulness to kind of come out of suffering. So these 16 steps, they are divided into 4 tetrads, and each tetrad corresponds to a foundation of mindfulness. With this technique, it balances calm and clarity. So the idea is that unless we calm down, unless we are at ease, we won't be able to have clarity. So within these steps, within these progression of steps, you develop calm, you develop clarity, you develop concentration, and then you have these insights, these experiences of liberation. And this was directly taught by the Buddha. Buddha gave detailed instructions, like I said before, for this technique. So I am going to launch into describing these steps one by one, these 16 steps. I think I'll need about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So after this is done, we'll take a short break. And then after you come back, I'll lead you all into guided meditation where we'll perform these steps one by one. So before I continue, are there any questions from anyone? Do you have any questions on anything I've said so far? Okay, I'm looking at online. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's begin. So you all have handouts, right? Okay, so we start with contemplation of the body. So that's the first establishment of mindfulness, right? The body. The way we do this practice is, of course, we start by being aware of inhalation and exhalation, right? Be mindfulness. We establish mindfulness of breath, and we become aware of inhalation and exhalation. And when we do so, that's when we arouse the first factor of awakening, which is mindfulness. So breathing in, breathing out, that's how we begin. And then the step one is, now you discern the length of the breath. You arouse this factor of investigation. Is my breath long? Is my breath short? Is my in-breath long? In-breath short? Out-breath long? Out-breath short? For most people, most of the time, when we start doing this practice, our breath is long. Now, long and short, they are relative, and there's no absolute method where you can say that, oh, my breath is long, my breath is short. It's all relative, because the breath changes all the time as we continue to practice. As we go through our day-to-day lives, for example, we'll see that our breath also changes. So when we start doing this practice, we arouse the investigation factor, whether our breath is long or short. To begin with, most of our breath is long, in-breath and out-breath, and then it changes after a while. So then you realize that, oh, my breath is not long, my breath is short. So you breathe in short, you breathe out short, right? So you start with mindfulness, being aware of the breath in, breath out, breath, and then you try to discern the length of the breath, whether it's long breath or short breath. So that is step number 2. Step number 3 is, using our breath, we experience the whole body. Okay? And the idea is that if you're sitting down, with these first 2 steps, the breath is at the foreground. Our breath is focused exclusively on the, our attention is focused exclusively on the breath, breathing in, breathing out. But with step 3, we let the breath go into the periphery. Now we are aware of our whole body. We keep breathing, we are aware of the breathing in, breathing out, but that's in the periphery. So you can say that approximately 80% of your attention is on the body, and 20% is on the breath, breathing in, breathing out. So we experience the whole breath. That's in our frame of reference. And now step 4, we breathe in, calming the body, calming the bodily activity. And we breathe out, calming the body, calming bodily activity. So in other words, we try to relax our body. And this step 4 is actually a very important step, a very crucial step. Now, turns out that as part of our physiological processes, when we breathe in, we are energizing our bodies. When we breathe out, we are relaxing our body. So that's happening all the time. We are not able to sense it simply because our minds are all over the place, right? But when you start paying attention to the breath and consciously relax the body, it becomes easy to do so. We are just amplifying the physiological actions that are at play. So breathe in, we are energizing. When we breathe out, if we focus on the arc of the breath, the exhalation, so to speak, we automatically end up relaxing that part of the body or the whole body, right? Now, again, coming back to the mechanism of the breath, right? Let's start with our lungs being empty, right? We breathe in, we inhale. When our lungs are full, there's a short gap, and then immediately we start exhaling. And after our lungs are empty, there's a gap. It's a, relatively speaking, a longer gap where nothing happens. And then we breathe in. And then we breathe out, again, longer gap. Okay? So when you focus on that exhalation, when our lungs are full, when we start to exhale, 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 lungs are empty, and then there's a gap where nothing happens. So that arc of the breath, when we focus our attention on the body and we have an intention to relax our body, it is amplified. That relaxation experience is amplified. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do a practice, if you do conscious practice of this out breath, you'll find it very easy to relax the body. Okay? So that is step number 4. I will breathe in, calming the bodily activity. I'll breathe out, calming the bodily activity. All right? So that is our first tetrad. We start with our body, right? Start with mindfulness, inhalation, exhalation, then investigate the length of the breath. And then we experience the whole body, and then we calm the body. So that is first tetrad, contemplation of the body. Before I move on to the second tetrad, are there any questions? Was this clear by any chance? Was this clear? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's just a quick question. Because I haven't noticed before when I've read all the 16 steps, I was thinking that the first 4 steps were all discerning, and then the next 4 and 4 and 4 were training. So do you notice any difference between the discerning in and out, long and short, to the experience of the whole body? Isn't that also discerning, or that becomes training?
No, that becomes training because you need, you are training yourself to do so, right? And I got this from Gail Fronsdale's method. This is something that he has kind of put out. Discerning is the only step where you are investigating. Oh, it's long or short, long or short. Everything else is training. Because with training, we get better at it. So the idea is that when you do this practice, it's best to do this with a sense of playfulness. Not get too hung up about whether you are achieving that step or not. But it's with repeated training, repeated practice, you will get more and more out of it. These experiences will become more and more tangible, more and more powerful. So, did I answer your question about, yeah. So, I think it's proper that just the investigation step is one of discernment, everything else is training. Okay, now we talk about the second tetrad. The second tetrad corresponds to contemplation of feeling tones. And this is the second foundation of mindfulness that deals with feeling tones. Now, brief definition of feeling tones. When we talk about feeling tones, we are talking about the signature of the tones. We throughout our day, we experience all kinds of feelings, right? Pleasant, unpleasant, good, bad, whatever. But with feeling tones, you are just looking at the signature, whether it's feel pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. You see? So we are not trying to look at what kind of feeling we are having. We are just looking at the signature. So, step 5. Now, what we have done so far with first 4 steps is we are breathing in, our breath is at the periphery, we are focused on the breath, and we have relaxed our breath, relaxed our body, right? Our body is calm, our body is relaxed. And step 5, we breathe in, experiencing joy, and we breathe out, experiencing joy. Okay? Now, this is Buddha's definition of joy. He set the bar so low for us to experience joy. The only thing we need to experience joy is to have a body that is relaxed and mind that is awake. Now, when the body is relaxed, there is a subtle experience of joy as it is, right? But with this conscious effort, we are magnifying that joyful kind of a response and joyful experience. Okay, so breathing in, you experience joy. Breathing out, you experience joy. And at that time, when you're doing this, your body is relaxed. Okay. Now, it is helpful to also have a brief recollection of your good fortune that you are able to do this practice to liberate your mind. So for example, when I do this practice, in a temple, for example, right, before I even start the practice, I spend like a minute or 2 minutes just looking at the statue of Buddha or statue of Kuan Yin. So when I close my eyes, when I reach this step 5, I'm recollecting the fact that yes, I'm inside this temple, I'm having this good fortune to do this meditation. And that helps bring out the experience of joy even more. You see? So you can have a brief recollection of your own good fortune, your good conduct, and that will arouse, that will actually make your experience of joy more stronger. Now I want to take a brief segue. When we talk about experiencing joy, Buddha also talked about sympathetic joy, right? As one of the divine abodes, as one of the limitless emotions. So the definition of divine abodes is that when gods kind of hang out, they experience those 4 qualities, and those qualities are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Okay? And here we are also experiencing joy. So there is a subtle difference between this experience of joy versus sympathetic joy. This experience of joy is joy experiencing within ourselves when we are doing this meditation. But sympathetic joy is manifestation of our joy in relation to other people. When we wish for other people's good fortune to continue, right, that is sympathetic joy in relationship to other people. But sympathetic joy is a manifestation of our own joy. You see? So there are many ways to cultivate joy. With these 16 steps, you cultivate joy by relaxing your body and by recollecting the good fortune that you have to do this practice. And trust me, and another reason why it says trains, right? When you do this practice again and again, you will find this distinct experience of joy welling up inside of you. Okay? So that is joy. And then from joy, step 6 is, I will breathe in experiencing happiness, I'll breathe out experiencing happiness. So from Buddha's perspective, joy and happiness are 2 separate experiences. The experience of joy is one of excitement, is one of anticipation. But happiness is more subtle, it's more calming. Happiness is almost like contentment in Buddha's version of this teaching. Happiness leads to contentment and tranquility. Okay, so once we have this experience of joy, that joy leads to contentment and tranquility. You see? Now, I forgot to mention that joy is also a factor of awakening, right? So by the time you come to the second tetrad, by the time you come to step 5, you've already covered the first 4 factors of awakening: mindfulness, investigation, energy, and joy. And I apologize, I forgot to talk about the factor of energy, right? Coming back to the first tetrad, when we experience the whole body, breathing in, breathing out, when we sustain that experience with our intent, it generates energy, right? So that's how you cultivate the third factor of awakening energy, right, in the first tetrad. When you come to the second tetrad, step 5, you cultivate joy. which is the fourth factor of awakening. So now we are on step 6 about happiness. So like I said, happiness is more, it's an experience of contentment, it's an experience of satisfaction. The cultivation of contentment is very, very useful because the contentment leads to a mind that is calm and serene and free of distractions. So when we get distracted, for example, we get distracted because we are not content. Something is bothering us that, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. Something is incomplete. But when we experience contentment, that itself leads to an increase in our absorption. It leads to our increase in concentration. You see? So this is how each step paves the way for the next step. You see? So we experience joy, we experience happiness, right? And then step 7 is breathing in, I'll experience mental activity. Breathing out, I will experience mental activity. So the body is relaxed, the physical body is relaxed. We are focused on breathing. Breathing is happening in the periphery. We are inhaling, exhaling. Our body is relaxed. We have cultivated joy. So we are a little joyful. We are a little contented, right? But then there's still be space for some mental activity. There are going to be some thoughts. There are going to be some judgments, some perceptions, right? So this is where you experience all of that. You experience mental activity. You bring everything in. You don't stop anything. You bring everything in. And the important point here is that in any Buddhist meditation activity, there should not be any pressure on us to stop mental activity. We can still continue our practice even though there might be some mental activity in the background, which is perfectly fine. And actually this takes a whole load off of our shoulders, right? Because if we decide that we will have a good meditation experience only when we have no thoughts, then we are going to be in for a huge disappointment, because more often than not, the mental activity is going to continue, right? So what you do is you observe, you experience the mental activity, right? But you don't jump into it, you don't give any energy to it. All right? So this is a very important point, that yes, even when we have reached step 7, there's going to be some mental activity and you just experience it. Now we come to step 8, where we say, I will breathe in, calming the mental activity. I'll breathe out, calming the mental activity. So now here, it is an invitation to our mind to calm down. It's not an order, there is no force behind it. So James Barris, he has this beautiful example. He says that, let's say you have your children playing in the playground, right? And they're making a lot of noise. And you want them to slow down. You want them to stay a little quiet. So you'll tell them, hey, listen, cool down. You're not going to shout at them. You're very lovingly, you're going to tell them that, hey, listen, you're being too loud. Please calm down. So that's the attitude we have to take when we do step 8. I'll breathe in, calming the mental activity. I'll breathe out, calming the mental activity. So it's more of an invitation than a command or an order. So this is now when we calm the mental activity, that's when we arouse the 5th factor of awakening, which is tranquility. All right. So we have finished the second tetrad, and we have already aroused the first 5 factors of awakening. So we started with contemplation of body, we come to contemplation of feeling tones, and now we go on to the third contemplation of mind. So before I start the third tetrad, are there any questions? Was this clear so far? I'm sorry, candle? Oh, thank you. All right, so now we go on to the third tetrad. Step 9. We train, I will breathe in experiencing the mind. I will breathe out experiencing the mind. Okay? Now, there are many different teachers have different interpretations of this step and what it entails. One interpretation that I like very much is the mind is basically our consciousness. So let's say with this step, so we have awareness, right? Things happen, we become aware of things that are happening between us. But we are not aware of the awareness itself. This bare consciousness, this bare awareness that is with us at all times, that is one that feels everything, right? So this is an invitation for us to experience the mind, the basic bare consciousness that experiences everything. So it's basically awareness of awareness. So one teacher calls this experiencing the mind, he calls this the consciousness, the fifth aggregate, the aggregate of consciousness through which we experience the other four aggregates, right? Another example is that when we do a deep dive into the ocean, right? As you go deeper and deeper and deeper, right, it'll get more and more peaceful, right? So what we have done with the first two tetrads, we have relaxed the body. We are calming the body, so there are no bodily formations, so to speak. We have also calmed the mental activity. So there is no mental activity. So this is the time where we can actually experience the mind directly. The mind that experiences everything, we are now able to experience the mind. All right, one thing you need to understand is that the right approach to perform this practice is to do it with a sense of playfulness. You know, have a sense of gentleness and kindness towards yourself. Have a little bit of excitement that yes, you're doing something that's going to be amazing, right? And then when you do this, you will briefly touch on these experiences that are listed, you know, and that's the right way to go. With more and more experience, our minds will get inclined to these experiences, and so it'll become easier and easier and deeper. Okay, so for now, just know that step 9, when we talk about experiencing the mind, we're talking about experiencing the consciousness itself, the ability that gives us the ability for us to be aware of other things. In most situations, we are not able to be conscious of consciousness simply because there is so much happening. There's so much going on, you know. But now that you have calmed the body, calmed the mind, it's an opportunity to. Sorry, I had somebody join in. Okay, thank you. So that is experiencing the mind. Okay. So, and then the next step is, so we now come to step 10. I'll breathe in, gladdening the mind. I'll breathe out, gladdening the mind. Okay, so the experience of gladness belongs to the same mental tonality as joy and happiness. So with the second tetrad, we started experiencing joy and happiness, but now that we have experienced consciousness, we can gladden the mind. So that gladdening will deepen the experience of joy and happiness. See, just like with joy, we used recollection, right, to magnify that joyful response. Like I said, you know, when I look at the statue of Buddha, I know that yes, I'm in front of the statue of Buddha doing this Buddhist practice. With gladdening the mind, one recollection is that we experienced consciousness in the previous step. Now, just recollect how amazing it is that from this consciousness, we somehow came to be, you know, as a distinct human being, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, Candle, someone just joined. Did you admit them? She's in. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so gladdening the mind deepens the experience of joy and happiness. And then we come to step 11. Step 11 is I'll breathe in, steadying the mind. I'll breathe out, steadying the mind. Right? Now, what does that mean? When the mind is glad, it'll concentrate easily. You see, it'll become steady easily. So, here, concentration or steadying the mind, it does not refer to a narrow focus where everything is excluded. In our day-to-day definition of concentration, concentration means that we are able to have a one-point focus on something to the exclusion of everything else. But here, concentration or steadying the mind has a very different meaning. It means that you are able to take everything in, and yet the mind itself is steady and ease, that it can abide in this state for a much longer period of time. You see, so that is the meaning of concentration and steadying the mind. And this is the sixth factor of awakening, which is concentration or samadhi. You know, some people might call this samadhi, this experience where you are taking everything in, when you are perfectly calm, steady, happy, and contented. So there is very little scope of distraction. Very little things will distract you because you are contented, you know. And then the last step in this tetrad, I'll breathe in, liberating the mind. I'll breathe out, liberating the mind. So at this point in time, when we're doing this meditation, the roots of our unwholesome mind, they are still in our mind, you know. They have not manifested yet, but they're still there, right? They are not showing up simply because we are in the state of concentration. We are happy, we are glad, we are still. But liberating the mind means that we take the I factor out of the equation, right? We are now not talking about I as a distinct entity. We are now experiencing the mind as is, without bringing I into the picture. Because the moment we bring I into the picture, that's when all the defilements arise. That's where all our sense desires and cravings come in, right? So we breathe in, liberating the mind from I or from me. We breathe out, liberating the mind from I concept or me. Now, this is the seventh factor of awakening, which is equipoise or equanimity. So, when we do this practice, sometimes we have this wonderful experience of, so we have started with joy, contentment, we're experiencing the mind, we are gladdening the mind, our mind is steady, and then when we take the I out of it, it becomes even more larger. The experience becomes even more profound. All right. Now, by the way, this is the seventh factor of awakening, the factor of equipoise or equanimity. In some ways, this can be the endpoint of many, many Buddhist practices, where, you know, at the end of the day, you are perfectly equanimous, you are perfectly at peace with everything that's happening inside of you, right? But there is another important factor here. right? When we talk about these three marks of existence, right? Anicca, anatta, dukkha, right? Impermanence, not self, and unsatisfactory nature of all conditioned phenomena. So we are breathing, right? Breathing is still happening in the periphery, breathing in, breathing out. And that is a mark of impermanence, right? Because we're breathing in, it's part of our physical body, everything is changing, right? Then when we look at our mind, yeah, things are still happening. Even though we are happy, we are glad, contented, things are still changing. We could lose that sense in a minute, you know? So that is impermanent. That's the experience of impermanence. Everything is changing. Now, with step 12, you have liberated the mind. So now this is the experience of anatta, not self. This is what not self means. When you're experiencing, this whole experience of liberating the mind, that is nothing but anatta, because your sense of self is not there, trying to control everything. We have let go. We have ceded all control, and we are just being with raw experience. Okay, and the third mark of existence, dukkha. What about dukkha? Dukkha is conspicuous by its absence. If you have reached this step 12, there will not be any dukkha in you. Simply because we are happy, we are contented, right? There is no reason for dukkha to come into the picture. You see? So it's so beautiful. I mean, these 16 steps give links to so many different kinds of experiences, different kinds of concepts. It validates everything that the Buddha has said, in other discourses, in other suttas. So that's how. So that is third tetrad, contemplation of the mind. Before I move on to the fourth tetrad, are there any questions? Was my explanation kind of clear on the third tetrad? Because it gets a little abstract here, So are there any questions? Is there anything I can highlight? Oh,
I
please.
do.
Oh, please. Yeah, please.
I just wonder about saying that there's no more dukkha. Oh, I mean, the Buddha had a lot of back pain and he had a lot of issues that were causing him suffering. So I would say he was experiencing dukkha, but he wasn't identifying with it. I don't want to split hairs, but what do you think it means that you no longer experience dukkha in that step?
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Candle. Yes, you're right. Yes, even though, and this comes back to the seventh factor of awakening, right? Equanimity. So even when we do experience dukkha, we are not identifying with it. So dukkha is also impermanent. Dukkha, even physical pain, for example, right? When we at this level, right? When you're doing this exercise, even physical pain is impermanent. So you're not getting caught up in it. And when you're not getting caught up in it, it ceases to be dukkha. So yeah, but thank you. That's a great great subtle point that we need to be aware of. That it doesn't mean that dukkha disappears, but with this practice, we get insights into how dukkha arises and how dukkha ceases to exist. All right, any other questions from anyone? Okay, all right. So here's the beauty, okay? Oh, Margaret, yes, please.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't know whether to wait until the end to ask this or to ask it, but I'll ask it now. If you begin this whole process with a kind of a lethargic sleepiness, and you find yourself drifting off into sloth and torpor, do you simply continue, or should you, excuse me, stand and go through it, or
Right. Okay, so that's a great question.
it's a difficult one, I know.
Is it okay? It all depends on your specific circumstance, right?
Yeah. Like my allergies now make me, very kind of lethargic and sleepy. but
Is it because the
I
quality
just
of my
work with them.
voice, like a
I'm
lullaby?
What's that?
Is it because of my voice that's making you? Sorry.
Oh, no.
Okay. So, all right. Now, here's the thing. I mean, there is no cookie cutter answer to this question.
Right.
And
Right.
unfortunately, sloth and torpor, they are occupational hazards, for this
Yes.
practice, right? It all depends on what we have done during the day, right? If
Right.
you had a very stressful day, right? If you've had to exert a lot of, physical energy on doing stuff, and if you then sit down and meditate, it's quite likely that this whole sense of fatigue will just come up, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's for you to make the right discernment. If you
Mhm.
continue to plow on this practice in spite of being tired, I don't think you'll be able to focus on it very much, because you're forcing yourself.
Yeah.
The idea of the practice is to just be at ease to
Yes.
whatever extent you can.
Yes.
And actually, to that point, step number 4, right? When you
Yes.
calm your bodily activity,
Yeah.
when your body is relaxed, sometimes you might fall asleep, and it's
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
Or if you're too tired, then it's better to just rest first, get that fatigue out of the way, and then when you are fresh, then do this practice.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you have to kind of play around with it.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's the reason why it's important to play.
Yes.
You
Yes.
don't have to take it so seriously. Buddhist practices are best done in the spirit of playfulness, the
Yes.
spirit of
Yes.
inquiry, and seeing what happens.
I
And at
have
the end of the
yeah.
day, it's all about relaxing, joy, contentment, happiness.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because I've had the most success in the past when I've done that, when I've been creative in that way. I will say that as a tool that is helpful is I've taking a walk before I, proceed.
Yeah, or doing some brisk
Yeah.
breath exercises, to generate
Yes.
some energy and then do it. Yes,
Yes.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, so I'm sorry, there's no right answer. It all depends on the situation. It all depends on you. But baby, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, apologies. I was a little late, but tying in a bit to what Margaret was asking, as you responded, no, I had formed a question. But so in this, like the emotional experience of this transition, right? For many of us, it might feel like something is being lost, that joy and pleasure. But supposedly, in fact, a deeper seeing is taking place. But with us, like just like because I also teach like with householders, how can we relate to that loss more skillfully? And then also in relation to that, how do we practice with dukkha without it turning into self-judgment or discouragement, especially when like an earlier joy, like you spoke about do it with joy, but then this earlier joy is also no longer present sometimes in the practice.
Oh, okay. All right. So I have been practicing this for a couple of years now, the 16 steps. All right. Initially, I use a combination of guided meditation. Sometimes I use guided meditations. Sometimes I do it by myself since I know these steps. There is no guarantee, what will come up, but you are just playing with it, you know. So you might end up having different experiences. But I can tell you for a fact that the more we do these steps, like step 4, for example, right, calming the bodily activity, that's why it said that we are training ourselves. The more we train ourselves in this activity of calming the bodily, calming bodily activity, the more likely we'll see or sense our bodies getting relaxed. The more we train ourselves that I'll breathe in experiencing joy, the more chances are that we will manifest joy in ourselves, joy and happiness. So, one answer to your question is yes, we, we are, I mean, we are all householders here, nobody is a monastic. Um, but that doesn't mean that we cannot do this practice. You just need 30 minutes, anywhere between 20 minutes to 30 minutes to go through these steps. All right. And if you can carve out time for doing this practice, you'll find it very, very beneficial. In fact, these steps will actually inform what you will do next. I also want to mention that these steps like joy, happiness, calming mental activity, that is also informed by our day-to-day lives. What kind of livelihood, we have, what kind of attitude we have showing up in life, so to speak, right? So again, I'm talking about the Eightfold Noble Path, right? Um, that also informs what we will get out of this practice. So, being monk, yeah, it's easy, right? You're already leading a life of blamelessness. You're already leading a beautiful life of service. So for them, when they do this practice, I'm pretty sure that they'll reach profound levels of happiness and joy and contentment, right? But for us, there's still there's still a lot of scope for us to have those kind of experiences, and then have those experiences inform what kind of life we want to live, what kind of relationships we want to have, and how to deal with relationships that have gone sour, you see. So it's all a beautiful cycle. Our life informs the practice, and then the practice informs our life. Does that help? Did I answer your question?
Um, like sort of like academically, it does answer the question. But Margaret's one of my students. She knows, and like my introduction always is like, why is there not more of that practice of joy? You say that joy is there, but even the way I would have been taught and continue to be taught is that this thing of sukha is impermanent, right? So in the early practice, we cultivate joy and pleasure. We cultivate piety and sukha to help stabilize the mind. I teach yoga also, and so this in my yoga, I do a lot of meditation. We do a lot of mantra work also, and I use that whole thing of the asanas, like you were saying, do some movement first and bring yourself that you can work coming to your still point, your center, right? So in initially, yes, cultivating the joy and pleasure are essential supports. But then supposedly if the dukkha arises, the sukha also has to fade. Not because something is going wrong, but because me as a practitioner, I'm supposedly now able to observe the conditionality, the limitations of even pleasant experiences, right? So that like one of the stories one of my teachers would say, the thing of that king who said, I want you to told his sages, make me something, tell me or make me something that when I'm happy, I'll be sad, when I'm sad, I'll be happy.
Yes.
And so it was that ring with inside it said, this too shall pass.
Yes,
Right?
yes. Okay, you know what? All right. How about this? Let me go to the last tetrad, and the last tetrad, the last step will be an answer to your question. Okay. And I'll come back to your question after I finish the fourth tetrad. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. So all this is just preparation for the grand finale. Okay. The grand finale is the fourth tetrad, contemplation of dharmas. Okay. Now, so far, we have calmed our body, right? We have calmed the body. We have calmed all mental activity. There's a sense of joy, happiness prevalent in our mind to some extent, right? And we have also experienced the mind when we take the I factor out of it, I or my factor out of it. Now we contemplate on impermanence, right? In fact, the way we do contemplation of impermanence is that impermanence drives or informs the last three steps. All right. And it's very easy to contemplate impermanence. The breath is still in the periphery, breathing in, breathing out. We know that the breath is changing. We know that the body is changing. We know that, you know, uh, our experience of joy and happiness, they'll also change. It won't remain the same, right? It'll go down, it'll go up. And from time to time, it's okay to go back, time the pump, and do step 4 and 5 and 6 again, and then come back to the fourth tetrad, right? So now impermanence, step 3 is I breathe in, contemplating impermanence. I breathe out, contemplating impermanence, right? And then impermanence informs the next step, step 14. I will breathe in, contemplating dispassion. And breathing out, I'll breathe out, contemplating dispassion. Now, the task here is to let the implications of impermanence sink in and transform our mental attitudes, right? So we allow the flow of impermanence to wash out our passions and attachments, you know, um, and we use impermanence as a genuine thrust for liberation. So this is where impermanence leads to step 14, contemplating dispassion, right? If everything is impermanent, right, there is no need to grasp or to hold on to anything. And then step 14 comes, leads on to step 15. I will breathe in, contemplating cessation. I'll breathe out, contemplating cessation. So everything is impermanent. There is no need to attach ourselves to any specific experience, to any specific, uh, any specific experience, right? The idea is to not have any craving or aversion to experience, whatever arises. And then step 15, it's very easy to contemplate cessation, right? And when we are doing this with mindfulness of breath, this is where the breath might come into the forefront, because breath is it's very easy to contemplate impermanence with our breath, because breath is, breathe in, stops, breathe out, stops, right? Um, and then when we come to cessation, the breath also ceases to be, right? When we do an out breath, when our lungs are empty, for example, right? There's a gap and nothing happens. And then we breathe in again. So cessation is happening in us with each and every breath. So we can now use the breath to focus on cessation, because everything is ending. And then that leads to step 16, where I'll breathe in, contemplating letting go. I'll breathe out, contemplating letting go. So the idea is that everything is impermanent, right? We are not attaching ourselves to any specific experience. We can experience the ending of all things. So now this is where we let go. This is where we let go of all conditioned experiences. Whatever we experience, if we let go, um, and maybe this answers partially the question that you're asking, right? The goal of this practice is to cultivate this perception of letting go, because if we are not able to let go, we are forced to have the same experience again and again. In fact, these 4 steps are so important that Buddha talked about cultivating perceptions for them. So, like 2 months ago, I gave a talk on 10 healing perceptions, right? So, these 4 perceptions, perceptions of impermanence, perception of dispassion, perception of cessation, and perception of letting go, have been called out specifically by Buddha. You know, with specific practice, it is possible to have just this perception. So it's part of our mental makeup, that when we experience something, that, oh, it's impermanent, so our default mode of mind can be that we are, it's impermanent, so there's no need to attach ourselves to it. So when we develop, if we are able to reach at that stage where these things become part of our perceptual model, part of our cognition model, then it's so beautiful, because all this is happening automatically without any conscious effort on our part, right? So at the end of the day, the goal of the 16 steps is to come to this step of letting go. And this letting go has not happened simply for the sake of letting go. We have experienced everything. We have let everything come in. We have calmed our bodies. We have calmed our mind. You know, we have experienced consciousness, the bare consciousness, right? And then we are observing the process of impermanence, and the fact that because everything is impermanent, there is no need to attach ourselves to it. So that's when we develop dispassion, and then we experience cessation firsthand, ending of the breath, right? Breath ends, when the breath ends, life ends, right? And that leads us to the perception of letting go. So that is the end point of this practice, mindfulness of breath. And again, when we do this, we we will get flashes of these insights for sure, right? But the more we practice, these insights will become stronger and stronger. Uh, our minds will be able to abide in these experiences, and so they'll come more naturally. So even though we are householders, even though we are lay people, there is tremendous opportunity for us to experience transformation with this technique. All right, any questions from anyone? Let's do it. Yeah, right. Okay. So let's do it. So it's 5:40. Let's take like a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and
Let's
then
only make it 5
okay. Or
because
5 minutes.
it'll straggle out.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. We'll take
And let's
5 minutes.
just let these words settle down and quietly go to the bathroom or drink and just stay where we are if you don't want to move, because that was a very powerful talk.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
And
right.
I think people are probably ready to take a break if they need to, but start in
All right.
on the practice.
Yeah. Let's take a break now. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming back. Um, let's do a short guided practice. Maybe it'll go on for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Um, I'll lead you through all the 16 steps, and I'll keep my eyes open because I have to read some of the directions. But the general guideline is to, of course, play with this technique, but keep your attention anchored on the breath, for the first 2 steps. And then whatever you're doing, 80% of your attention should be on the foreground, on the topic, and 20% on the breath. So, I mean, of course, the attention won't stay constant, but try to kind of get that kind of a rhythm to get the most out of this practice. Okay, so let's get started. Take a moment to let your body settle in a comfortable position. Keep the head, neck, and back erect, but not rigid. Keep your hands comfortably placed on your sides. Be aware of the body in the sitting posture. Let the mind rest on the body, just as the body rests on the cushion. With each exhalation of the body, relax and soften it. With each exhalation of the breath, relax and soften the body. Cultivate an attitude of patience, gentleness, and kindness towards yourself. Formulate your motivation to do this practice and let go of all your worries and concerns for the time being. No need for them now. Establish mindfulness now and bring it to the front of your attention. Focus your attention on the sensation of the breath as it moves past the nostrils. With mindfulness established, we will now intentionally take a long breath and investigate the length of the breath. We will scrutinize it and have an attitude of interest and curiosity. Investigate the length of the in breath. Is it long or short? Investigate the length of the out breath. Is it long or is it short? From length of the breath, we shift to whole body awareness. The whole body in the sitting posture comes to the forefront of our attention, whereas our inhalation and exhalation recedes into the background to be held in peripheral awareness. Focus your attention and awareness on your whole body. And now, calm your bodily activities. Experience a deep sense of relaxation throughout the whole body. Just let it sink to the ground. Breathing in, I calm all bodily activities. Breathing out, I calm all bodily activities. Experience a sense of relaxation in your body. Out of that deep sense of bodily relaxation, let joy arise. The joy of being in the present moment, of the practice we've been doing so far. Walking in the footsteps of the Buddha. All these together can become an opportunity, an occasion to cultivate joy. Breathing in, I experience joy. Breathing out, I experience joy. And from joy, we come to happiness, the happiness of contentment. The contentment and gratitude for this practice. We maintain awareness of inhalation and exhalation in our peripheral awareness. We now open up to the vista of our attention to mental activity. Experience mental activity without becoming active about it. Breathing in, I experience mental activity. Breathing out, I experience mental activity. We now calm all mental activity, leading to tranquility of body and mind, all tensions dropping off, all agitations quietening down, tranquility of body and mind. Breathing in, I calm mental activities. Breathing out, I calm all mental activities. With mental activity calmed, mind or consciousness itself can be experienced in its bare condition. Breathing in, I observe my mind. Breathing out, I observe my mind. We now come to the step of gladdening the mind. Invoke gladness at a very profound and deep level. Breathing in, I gladden my mind. Breathing out, I gladden my mind. Out of such gladdening, the mind naturally becomes composed and unified, as if the whole of experience is held in a gentle, tender embrace, so that all its usual fragmentations disappear, leading to steadying or concentration of the mind. Breathing in, I concentrate my mind. Breathing out, I concentrate my mind. We now come to the step of liberating the mind. In particular, liberating it from any my making or my making, so that it becomes superbly balanced. Breathing in, I liberate my mind. Breathing out, I liberate my mind. The mind is now enriched by the presence and arousal of all the seven factors of awakening. With the continuity of these seven jewels in the mind, we contemplate impermanence. Breathing in, I experience impermanence. Breathing out, I experience impermanence. Moving on from impermanence to dispassion, allow the flow of impermanence to wash away our passions, wash away our attachments, wash away our cleanings to transform our attitude. Breathing in, I contemplate dispassion. Breathing out, I contemplate dispassion. With the growth of dispassion, with the lessening of our attachment and clinging, it becomes easier to allow things to end, to see the ending of things. Cessation. Give all attention to the ending of inhalation, the ending of exhalation. Breathing in, I contemplate cessation. Breathing out, I contemplate cessation. The more we learn to face and be at ease with cessation, the easier it becomes for us to let go of what we anyway cannot hold on to. Let go of attachments, let go of clingings, let go of our conceit I am, let go of all the conditions to take the plunge into the unconditioned, the supreme peace, the supreme happiness, the supreme freedom of Nibbana. Nothing to lose, only to gain by letting go. Breathing in, I contemplate letting go. Breathing out, I contemplate letting go. we now come to an end of this meditation practice. Please stay centered for a few moments to dedicate the merits of our practice. We will dedicate the merits to ourselves as well to all living beings. I will repeat some traditional phrases of loving kindness. In the short period of silence that follows each phrase, repeat it to yourself and invoke any emotion that comes out of it. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings live with ease. So thank you all for your time and attention and practice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, any feedback, any sharing? Yeah, hi Margaret.
Yes, hi. Yeah, thank you for going through all that. It was just absolutely beautiful. But now you said that is it in the third tetrad that the I factor leaves?
Yes. So third tetrad, step 12. I will breathe in, liberating the mind. I will breathe out, liberating the mind. Step 12, tetrad
Yes.
3.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention that it came to my mind at one point toward the end of your talk that you are given the opportunity to recognize what we do on a regular basis to block our freedom from suffering. You know, I thought of the house builder sutta that the Buddha gave, and I think he may have been thinking along that line, you know, the way that we are continuously sort of building obstacles for ourselves and we're not aware of that.
Yes. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, so the idea is to do this practice to kind of wash away, you know,
Yes,
those kind of experiences and the effect
yes,
that it has on us.
yes,
And at the end of the day, step 16, letting go. 16 is about letting go. And in Buddha's vision of Nibbana is all about letting go.
Yes,
The more we let go, the more we actually receive
that's right.
in
That's
terms
right.
of peace, in terms of happiness.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal of this practice, to achieve Nibbana.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And in that Householder Sutta, he does mention a little bit of this about what his vision of Nibbana is, and
Yes.
how Nibbana is achievable by householders and monastics alike.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Thank you.
you. Mhm.
Any other questions? Was this helpful, the guided meditation?
Yeah.
Were you able to touch on some aspects of this experience? Okay. Would you like to share?
If anybody feels like sharing here in
Oh, okay.
person, here it is.
I'm Sina, she, her. I just wasn't sure how this would go in the practice. You explained it thoroughly, and then going through it, I got more out of it than I expected.
Oh, okay, good.
And so I just really have to thank you
Oh, sure.
very, very much. I'm very grateful for
Yes.
this new knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right. Yeah, I have to mention that, we have certain guided meditations by certain monastics, like Bhikkhu Analeo. He has guided meditations on each tetrad, and I've used his meditations extensively. I've used some meditations by James Paris, a lay teacher, and there are other teachers also. So you'll find these guided meditations. If you do a Google search, if you go on Dharma Seed, for example, you might find some. But it's helpful to use guided meditations in the beginning, especially when you're not clear about the steps, the progression of the steps. And then once you are clear, then you can do it on your own. And the beauty and the advantage of doing this on your own is that at any point in time, let's say you are in third tetrad and you feel that there is some itching in the body, that your body is not quite calm, you can go back to step 4, calm the body activity, re-arouse the feelings of joy and happiness, calm mental activity, and then come back. So you can do some recycling on your own as you wish, but the ultimate um, experience is in fourth tetrad, when you contemplate impermanence, then, dispassion, then cessation, and then letting go. And if you do this a couple of times, you are bound to touch on this experience of letting go, and you're bound to get a small taste of what it means to be in Nibbana, you know. And then, of course, we have this phenomena. There is this Zen koan, right? Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So yes, we will come back to our day-to-day lives, but we have experienced something that is beautiful, that is very, very transformative, and that experience will inform how we will lead our lives, you know. So it's a beautiful practice, it's very transformational, and it has all elements mixed in, baked into it, like the 7 factors of enlightenment, the 3 marks of existence, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. They are all embedded within this practice of the 16 steps of Ānāpānasati Sutta. So keep doing it, keep doing it and be free and let go.